Welcome students for online classes. Today we'll start on with a new chapter, that is chapter 3 LPG, that is Liberalization, Privatisation and Globalization. And in this chapter we'll study about the reforms or the revolution which was taken place in the year 1991, that is about LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization. So the topics of this session are background of economic reforms and new economic policy. So what was the background of economic reforms and why the adoption of new technology took into place? Just because of the negative impacts which was happened in the year 1952 1990, whichever reforms was taken, some of the reforms were not successful. So because of this, what happened, the new economic policy was taken into consideration. So let's see which were the negative impacts happened in the year 1952 1990. Under that, first one is poor performance by public sector. So what happened under public sector? What is basically public sector about? It is only looking after the welfare of the people or the nation's security. So because of this, what happened? There was no proper growth taken into consideration. Majority of the money was given, or the government used to give majority of the money to the farmers or to the industrialists just to grow. So there was no proper development in the industry, which was a negative impact to the public sector. And the second one is the deficit balance of payment and fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit is about the tax payments, and the deficit balance of payment, first let's see what is balance of payment. The balance of payment of the country is the inflow and outflow of money. So to what extent there will be exports, so to what extent there will be imports. To basically it is about the balance where the imports of the country should not exceed exports, or the exports of the country should not exceed imports. What happens when the import exceeds exports? There will be a loss in our current economy. Why? Because when we import things, we need to give money in return. So majority of the money, if we give to the imports, what will happen? There will be a negative impact to the economy. So the deficit balance of payment means increasing in the imports, which leads to deficit. So when there is loss in the balance of payment, that leads to the deficit balance of payment, which was the negative impact happened in the year 1950 to 1990. And later on, the next one is slow rate of industrial growth. So what happened under industrial growth? Because of the tariffs, because of the quotas, because of the duties which you need to pay during exports imports, what used to happen? It was of greater extent, that the tax percentage was of greater percentage. Because of this, it was very difficult for the people or the industrialists to export import things. This was one of the negative thing happened in the year 1950 to 1990, sorry. And even for the industrial growth or the development was not possible. And the next one is the Gulf crisis. So what does Gulf crisis mean? The war happened between Iran and Iraq in the year 1990 to 91 is known as Gulf crisis. So because of this, what happened? We need petrol, we need to run machineries, we need to run vehicles, we need transportation facility. So because of this, we need petrol or diesel. So because of this, what happens? We had to import things. At this particular point of time, what happened? There was increase in the petrol price in the international market, which was one of the negative thing happened for us. Because of this, what happened? There was the new economic policy to be introduced, and even what happened? There was decrease in the exports. Why there was decrease in the exports? Just because the people didn't wanted to purchase anything because of the war process happening. So because of this was also what happened? It was a negative impact in the year 1950 to 1990, which led to the new economic policy. And the next one is economic imbalance. Now what happened? Because what is economic imbalance? It is the expenditure incurred by the government on the subsidies because of the welfare schemes, and even the huge amount of the money was given to industrialists. How? First thing, the subsidies was given for the farmers, and at the same point of time, what happened for industrialists? The government gave a great concession, that was about the electricity, or it may be the land. So because of this, what happened? It was a negative impact, which was a huge loss occurred by the government, and it was very much insufficient for the government to spend more. Because of this, what happened, there was no development. So because of this also, it was a poor performance made by the government or the public sector. So because of this, when there was no money in the economy, there was a major imbalance happened. So because of this, there was no proper development. And the next one is a sharp fluctuations in stock market. So what does stock market mean? Stock market are the ones where the individuals or the institution who invests in the companies, who invests in any public securities, who buy and sell shares. Now what does shares mean? When a company or an institution is situated, the particular company needs money to invest in. So at this particular point of time, the company will sell the return bond. At this particular point of time, the public will invest in that particular company. This is known as stock market. So because of the strict rules and regulations which was applied in the year 1950 to 1990, what were the strict rules? Maybe the import substitution, maybe the quotas, maybe the tariffs. Because of this, what happened, there was a sharp fluctuations, or there was a sharp problems happening due to the stock market. And the next one is loss of international confidence. So why there was loss of international confidence? Because of import substitution, what happened, there was no imports happening to our economy. We Indian were self independent, we were producing all the goods. So because of this, what happened, there was no proper relationship between the foreigners. So because of this, there was decrease in the foreign exchange reserves. What is foreign exchange reserves? The foreign people had to it is not necessary that they had to invest. It is that they were investing in our current economy for their development or for their betterment. So because of the import substitution, what happened, there was decrease in the imports, and even the foreign people started to decrease their reserves in our current economy. So because of this, what happened, there was a loss of international confidence. These are the 7 points. Because of these things, what happened, Indians or the Indian government had to adopt the new policy. That is how the new economic policy was adopted. Majorly the two institutions, that is IBRD and IMF. The IBRD is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and IMF is International Monetary Fund. So because of these two institutions, they had gave some conditions to the government to lay a new economic policy. So in the year 1991, what happened, the introduction of new economic policy was made by Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. This happened in the year 1991. So the introduction of new economic policy was happened in the 1991 by or with the helpage of IBRD and IMF, and who adopted, it was adopted by Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and the Financial Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. So what was a new economic policy? What is new economic policy? It is the various policy measures and changes introduced since July 1991 to improve the efficiency of economic system is called as new economic policy. To bring the changes, to bring the variety of the customs, to bring the new developmental changes, what happened? New economic policy was adopted from July 1991. So let's know what are the objectives of new economic policy. First is a stabilization program. So what happened, as there was deficit in balance of payment, later on in the year 1991, what the new economic policy made, it was very much necessary for our economy to be balanced. So because of this, what happened, stabilization program was taken into consideration to maintain the stable inflation. Now what does the word inflation mean? Inflation means increase in the purchasing power. So what is this purchasing power? I'll give you an example. I will go and purchase a packet of biscuit that is of rupees 5, maybe 5 rupees Good Day biscuit I will purchase. At the next point of time, maybe 2 days later, what will happen? The same pack of rupees 5 will be increased to rupees 10. This is known as inflation, increasing in the purchasing power of any particular product, that is known as inflation. So when there is inflation, what will happen? The public or the consumers need to pay more, which will be one of the imbalance thing to our economy when there will be no proper balance of payments. So to bring the stabilization, to bring the stable procedure, to bring the balance, this particular new economic policy was adopted. And the next one is structural adjustment program. So what does this structural adjustment program tells? It tells regarding the goods, to what extent there will be demand for the goods, to what extent the supply of the goods should be made in the economy, and which is very much necessary for the development of the economy also. So this is about the objectives, the stabilization and the structural adjustment. So what were the policies adopted? The policies adopted was L, P and G, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. These are the new economic policies adopted by Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Financial Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, based upon the condition laid by IBRD and IMF. So the assignment part, briefly explain the background of economic reforms in India. Thank you, students.